There we are.
There you are.
Great. All right, let's get started. So it's 6:38. I'll call the meeting to order. Lisa, Richie, please take roll for us.
Tom Sonnet,
Here.
Trudy Onsor.
Here.
Trudy is here via Zoom at 1400 Oglesby Lane, Moorhead City, North Dakota, North Carolina. I bet you'd rather be in North Carolina than North Dakota, right?
Heck yes.
Gar, absent. Carrie Nadeau here. Stacy Marr here, and Lisa Wong here. And myself, Secretary Ms. Rich.
Okay. So we'll adopt the agenda. We have approval of the minutes. Do we have the minutes? Or were we gonna? I think because we had a shorter time, do we not have them? We are in there?
And I can pull them up. So here they are.
Okay.
Right, I
Did,
had a
did
turn.
anyone else get a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay,
Thank you.
so take a motion to approve it. We'll have meeting open to the public. We have public hearings, commission business and action items and recommendations. We have update and ongoing planning for Craft Wagon, updates on Love Ice Cream Mural, and continued process mapping. And then we have links to these things. I don't know if those are separate action items or business, right? Those are just where to go to look at those things, or did you want to look through those for some separate reason?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Items D and E under section 7.
old business.
No, it's just links to the
Oh,
smart sheet. and
I'm
links to the
sorry, I
Pinterest site. I don't think those are actual business items. They're just.
Oh,
They're
correct. Yes, I added that's a
Okay.
link to our
Yeah.
smart sheet, so we didn't have to spend time trying to fool around.
Right.
I'm sorry, Tom,
No, no,
I'm still
that's
working
okay.
with this technology
Yeah,
here, but.
I hear you.
Oh, no.
Then we have old business reports from staff, reports from commissioners, reports from liaison, and then we will adjourn. So I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, so we had. Trudy. Oh, and I'll second. Okay.
Judy and seconded by Carrie.
Yep.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Trudy?
Aye.
Okay. And approval of minutes. So we'll take a motion to approve the minutes unless anyone has anything you want to amend.
So moved.
Approved by Carrie,
Second.
second by Stacy. All those in favor of approving the minutes as listed by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Trudy?
Actually, I'm going to abstain because I have not read them.
Okay.
So sorry if they were sent and I missed it. So
So, well, I did not see them either, but I'm going on page to approve, so that gives us 3. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we do have 3, unless no one's opposed to it. And meeting open in public, we have nobody here. That. Public hearings, we don't have any public hearings. So commission business and action items, and I would just suggest that maybe we go with item B, updates on Love Ice Cream Mural first, since we have Susanna here, and then she doesn't have to stay and listen to the rest of the stuff. So let's talk about this. So is I think probably everyone here knows Susanna's desire, that, how many years did you say you've been working on this?
Since 2015.
Since 2015, so for about 7 years. And, you know, we knew of this when I was on the council, that Susanna wanted to do this. We thought that would be a great idea, but it was clear that, you know, it's not something that's easy for any given business to just get done on their own, especially given the cost that's involved in it. But it is something that could benefit the city, and it was something that years ago when I was on the council, we were talking about, you know, maybe we need to have an arts commission to do something like this. And so your desire, Susanna, was actually something that helped get this whole arts commission going. Here comes the mayor.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Terry. Everybody know Terry Furlong? Yeah.
Okay, he's on the piano with us. Sorry. Not to interrupt you at all.
No, I'm just kind of feeling we're moving on to our business here for tonight, which is the craft wagon, but also the Love Ice Cream mural. And then we can also, I think we'll just have to add, can we do that now? To just talk about the snowman project?
Yeah.
Okay. Even though we've already approved the agenda. But we're talking about, Terry, I was just kind of mentioning how Susanna's desire to have a mural is something that helped instigate the whole Arts Commission in the first place, you know, because like, when it, you know, we should have something, the city should have something that could kind of help make these things happen. And a vehicle for that. And so Susanna, this commission just started last summer. Was our first meeting. And so we talked about this the other night. We were really just, you know, we've been building from the ground up everything that's required to do this. But as we've at the end of last year, we were kind of talking about numerous potential projects for 2022. In the beginning of this year, we're saying, well, okay, well, let's get serious. What do we think we could actually try and accomplish this year?
Mhm.
And so we have kind of a small group of things, but at the same time, and also that we mentioned is that we are in the process of developing a process for how to do anything.
Sure.
Because we haven't done anything yet. And so how do we take something from ideation all the way to execution, completion, and even maintenance too, you know, long term, how do we maintain something that's installed in the city as public art? And so we're figuring this out as we go. And but Carrie had contacted Susanna recently and asked if we could connect and just kind of see where she was at with this. And so Carrie and I met with Susanna the other night and talked a little bit about where she's at with this, what she's thinking, and some of the things that you've learned already in your time of looking into this. And so I thought it'd be best if Susanna maybe could share that with the group, with what she has learned so far, and then maybe we can talk about where we want to go with this, or what kind of ideas we have to help try and take this thing forward, and what is the potential for us to try and help get this accomplished in the year 2022. Is that sound of anything you would add, Carrie?
No, that's great. Good summary.
Okay. So Susanna, do you want to just kind of start and tell us, like, how did this whole thing get going? What was your
Yeah.
idea?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to give you just a really brief history of the building itself, because you need to know what the canvas is here that we've been working with. So the top photograph is our building, is now Love Ice Cream at 2587 7th Avenue East. And it was originally built, finished in 1956 as Harry's Rexella Drugstore, as it stood for numerous years, I'm going to say approximately 20 years. Then it became North St. Paul Furniture Store. And then in 2015, my husband and I bought the building. So literally the building is 70 years old roughly, and we're just the third owners of this building. So that's kind of cool in itself. We already, the original Harry's Rexella Drugstore sign on top of the building was preserved. This is how we bought the building in 2015. So the sign, you can see was maintained on top of the roof, and my husband and I hired a sign restoration company out of Minneapolis. And we went ahead and had vintage pink neon, which is the same color as would have been the neon in 1956. And as the fate allowed, it just happens to be also the color of love. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's just such a crazy coincidence. But right away when we bought the building, you can see it has this enormous expanse of an exterior wall. It's just concrete, cinder block. It's an original wall. And we own 1/3 of the parking lot with Sandberg's Funeral Home. So it's a large parking lot. And what it does is allow a tremendous view from anybody driving or walking into North St. Paul from Century along 7th Avenue. Really, our wall is one of the first things that anybody would see. And it's just this big blank white wall. And immediately when we bought the building, I thought, I mean, it was immediately in my head, this is a perfect wall for a mural. I mean, it's just screaming to be beautified and to welcome people coming into North St. Paul. So keeping that in mind, I set about trying to figure out how to get this done. And an old acquaintance of mine happens to own a business, a nonprofit business in the Seward neighborhood of Minneapolis called Horticulture. And it's just a fabulous business. And I was making a delivery actually of our products to the Seward co-op one day. And I saw that Elizabeth Greenbaum is her name, who owns Horticulture. She had this magnificent mural on the side of her building, and the building was about the size of my building. I took a picture of it. And then it was through the help of actually one of the former North St. Paul city, I don't know if she was city planner. Do you remember Corinne?
Yeah,
What was her title?
she was a city planner.
Okay, so I gave her the photograph and she
Yeah.
actually did this mock-up for me. And I asked her to help, what would it look like, that mural just on the side of our building? I mean, so I'm not saying that this is totally photoshopped on, and it's the mural that is living and existing on Horticulture's building in Minneapolis. But I mean, it looks so wonderful. So I contacted Liz. This is now dating back in 2017. I contacted Liz Greenbaum and said, I've got this huge blank wall. How do you do it? And she gave me some pointers right away, which I think are just the way to go. She said, you don't want to just slap paint on a wall. You can't just randomly go and paint a mural. It needs to be the right kind of paint. The walls has to be correct. It has to be, weatherproofed. And she quickly led me to, got me to realize it's not an easy thing, and it is expensive. And if you're going to do something, you do it right. So what she suggested is to hire a muralist to kind of project manage something like this. And right away, I said to her, I would love for this to be a community project. We could get different groups of people throughout the community to help paint the mural, but the design of the mural itself would be done by a professional. The coordination of the painting groups would be done by a professional. It would be project managed by a professional who knows what they're doing.
I was gonna say, you don't want new painting on that wall.
No, it would literally be, by the time we got the community involved in paints, it would literally be like paint by number.
Right.
So,
I can do that.
yeah. So and hopefully, everybody, we would want to touch as many people as we could to come out. Because it would be a lasting contribution and part of the landscape of North St. Paul. And she has also, I have spoken with so many different people along these 7 years of trying to get this done. I can't remember who suggested, there were a couple of other great ideas that, because it is such a big expanse, you don't have to do the whole wall, you can do part of the wall. Or you can break it up into sections. Like there was some mural somewhere that literally the community decided to do seasons. So they did, 1 year they did spring, the next year they did summer, and then they did fall, and they did winter over a 4-year time period. You know, there are all different ways to do it. Another mural that I learned about literally was designed to be painted over every couple of years. So they were temporary murals, but the canvas was always available for new ideas, and different community groups would come up with different themes. And that seems a little bit much, but in any case, there are a whole bunch of different ways to go about it. And my original concept and idea of, in terms of content for the mural, I mean, there's so many different avenues to go, but just one of the ideas that I had is, and I was mentioned this to Carrie and Tom, I mean, when you look at other surrounding communities, they have very distinctive landscape characteristics. And that's what Articulture did. This is literally the Seward neighborhood that they have with the bicycle trails, and some different buildings in Minneapolis is in the background, and it's really lovely. I don't know that what comes to me about North St. Paul is not a riverscape or a lakescape or anything, but it is the history of the town itself, that this is a workers community with skilled labor, and has been from its onset. The furniture companies that were here, and the cabinet makers, and the mechanics, and the machinists, and the different union, the steel workers union is here. I mean, there's so much beautiful just labor that built North St. Paul and built the Twin Cities around it. And, you know, we've got Burwell Roofing, who is the biggest roofer in the Midwest. And when we were building out just our little, you know, 3,600 square foot facility, when I was looking for someone to abate the asbestos that was in the building, I hear him calling over the Twin Cities. And it turns out the best person was literally right out my back door, a block away on Charles Street. And we hired them to come abate the asbestos. And then we needed the FDA approved flooring and the FDA approved ceilings. And it was the high traffic flooring people, again, on Charles Street, literally right behind us. And the cabinet makers in front that had to be a special FDA approved cabinet, because, you know, we're a food facility. And it's Anderson Cabinets built our cabinet. So it's all here in North St. Paul. I mean, and that is a beautiful, rich story to tell. So that's what I thought would be a beautiful tribute to this community, to highlight that aspect on the side of the building. And you know, just looking around too, there, I mean, I mentioned the Tom and Carrie, you had mentioned the mural in the post office. That was painted in 1941 as part of the WPA project. I mean, oh my God, that is such a beautiful, rich part of history. But what does it depict? Farmers, they're milking cows. You know, this is what this area is. So those are just my thoughts. And I am very much open to different ideas. You know, so right away, Ilya and I need to do some surface patching. Like I said, the wall, the concrete wall is from 1956. We need to do a little bit of repair work, minor. We would go ahead and paint a very protective, waterproof special paint that needs to go up on that wall. And then I think we need to rely on the experts, the muralists, to know, okay, then what's the next process? Besides coming up with the theme and the design, you know, implementing the different groups available to come and paint, help paint it. And what does that time frame look like? And when I originally gave the dimensions to Elizabeth, I mean, I remember at some point ballparking, this could be a $15,000 to $20,000 project. Not inexpensive. It's not. So, and that's kind of where like, oh, okay, well, I had windows to replace at the time. We have a lot of other things that, you know, mural was not on the priority,
Right,
the totem
exactly.
pole for Love Ice Cream.
And that's
So-
the thing, it's probably not, you know, although there might be numerous businesses who would love it. But when you think of your priorities, you know, and what the costs, your expenses and everything else, it's probably low on the list. But if there was a way to get it done, would other businesses support something like this as well?
Yeah, you know, and I did think too that to approach the different unions in the area, the Steelworkers Union, and I know there are other unions around. And they don't even have to be unions based in North St. Paul. But very interested in helping to finance something like this. The resources that I approached, I'm gonna say like 3 years ago, Mayor Mike had given me some phone numbers to call. And I remember calling at that time, but they really didn't want to talk to me because I was a private entity. They were really looking for a community sanctioned council to do any kind of talking with. So I'm so glad that you guys are formed, and thank you for even considering this. I really think that it would be a beautiful addition to Main Street. And really, I'm very, very much in favor of getting as many community groups involved as available and prudent, you know. And with the Springborn and the History and Historical Society here, there's a wealth of content. That's not the problem. You know, I don't even necessarily think that labor is the problem. It really does, like 99.9 things in this world comes down to financing. So that's where it's at.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of like taking some notes of things that to kind of consider as we go through this. But before we jump into that, I want to see if anyone else has thoughts or questions for Susanna.
I think it's amazing. Yeah.
Trudy?
Yeah, I am, I'm excited. This is exactly what, we're here for. And it's a very cool project. It would be very visible right on Main Street. And I'm where my mother used to say, where there's a will, there's a way. So, if it's something that we decide that this is a goal, we can figure out a way to get it done.
So, yeah, great. I think so too. Anything else, Stacy? Any questions?
It's a very wonderful, great asset for the downtown. She's 100% correct. That is the entrance into our city. That's the first thing that you do see.
Yeah.
We've talked about murals for years. We've sent people over to you, and
Yes.
and it's hard because we don't have a funding source for it. If it's city related, it's going to be probably some of the money's going to come from us. So we've got to work that out. But that's why we formed this committee, because now we have an active committee that can look at this. They can go for funding. They can get a budget. Whether or not they ask city council for it, and that's just all options right now.
Yeah.
Like you say, that's the hardest thing is the money then.
Right.
But I think potentially we have some resources from the city with Lisa, I don't want to talk out of turn here, but the American Recovery Act money that we're going to be talking about, how we're going to spend all that money. That's going to be a workshop, and this might fit into some of that, because like you say, that thing could last 40, 50 years.
Yep. Yeah.
And hopefully you're around for 40.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Next, you guys sell, the next guy comes in and gets a roller to it.
No, that would not be
So,
work.
that's even something that, this is going to be something on your building. If you were to sell, is that something that we would need to have a contract that they don't come in and just put a,
I would think so. Yes, absolutely.
that might be something that we have to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Protect it.
to protect it.
In that same vein of thought too, is there, consideration of maintenance, downstream maintenance?
Yeah.
We'll have to look at all that.
That partnership that could stay potentially with the building if it sells, like as an agreement with the city for supporting this improvement, or, and I don't know the legalities of it, but I think it's worth.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a piece of art.
Yeah.
We'll protect it.
Well, there's a Mural Act, actually. It's like a 1970 something Mural Act, and I don't know if that extends to their chapter for state. But I do think there is a specific law that does protect
Something.
murals.
something to look into. That's a good point, though, because, I mean, you know, you think, well, it's private property. If somebody buys the building, they try to do anything they want with it. They can tear it down, you know, and what would compel them without it being something?
Is there any art protection ordinance in North St. Paul yet?
There's no art.
So the reason.
There's definitely a mural at the post office.
Right,
That's
so the
where
re-
it's
and that
protected.
probably falls under the Mural Act.
That's a federal.
It's federal, but the reason why I ask is because as we're continuing down this road,
There's more and more.
depending upon who, like our city council definitely makes a lot of great decisions for our community, but they could also not like decisions we've made down the road
Mhm.
and want to take down art that could violate a partnership with an artist, or, you know, like could create feelings, I guess. Art will always create feelings, but once it's taken down, it's gone.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's something to propose and consider. That'd be something for Lisa.
Yeah, something worth discussion and
Yeah.
certainly ask city attorney what he thinks and what he can find. And I'll just make sure that it's
There was, about 10 years ago, there was the Downtown Unification Act, which was a federal program. I don't know if any of you know anything about that, or if that program is still alive.
I know, I just saw something on the internet in regards to that. There's a meeting about the downtown beautification act coming up here. And,
A federal program?
I think it's a
federal money.
program.
And the whole reason why I know about it is because my little town that I grew up, was born and raised in, my best friend was still there, so I frequented in Connecticut. Really had a lot of similar history to North St. Paul, a tradesperson's town, and as a lot of New England really fell into disrepair when factories closed, and I mean, Main Street in my hometown just shut down, and it was awful. Then they were able to get a lot of federal money for that federal Downtown Beautification Act. And oh my gosh, it is true the word. My downtown in my little hometown now is absolutely gorgeous. And there are murals, and there's a boulevard, with trees and flowers and new lampposts, and it was really something. So I don't, if that program is still around, that would be potentially wonderful.
So for the team here, what I'd like for us to think about, because you know, even just having this conversation with Susanna, I'm starting to think of, you know, remember, I think last time we were talking about what would like an intake form look like, you know, what would be the things that we would want to cover. And so far, what I'm hearing, if I categorize some of these things, there's the art itself, and, you know, like theme, color, style. And then I think there's got to be, you know, we would have to think, you know, what's the review and the final approval of that? The artist, like who would be doing this? And would there be other people involved? Like in this case, we might want to have community residents come to help. There's the review and approval process. You know, one thing that stood out to me right away when you were talking about this, Susanna, was that you share a parking lot with Sandburg North. And I'm like, well, we're going to have them in the discussion, you know, because it would be, you know, I think the mural ideas that you have are fantastic. But, you know, if you had a mural idea for some art that might be much different, that could impact, you know, the customers at the mortuary, for example, you know, could there be some issues there? So how do we make sure that especially the immediate neighbors of businesses and things like that are on board with it? So there's review and approval, like with others in the community in the vicinity of the art. And then there's planning commission. You know, I think that we should be fine unless I think someone said unless it has the name of the business in the art. But you know, like if you put Love Ice Cream in the mural, then it comes under the sign ordinance or something, but if you don't, then it doesn't. And even if it did come under the sign ordinance, I don't know that would stop it. just things to consider. And then cost, so when there's something like this, I think a question would be, is the business owner willing to participate in the cost? And to what extent? So that would be good, helpful for us to know, because I think it might be, our approach might be like, well, let's see if we can get the whole thing paid for through grants or, funding through the state or whatever. But if we can't, how far would you be willing to go to help fund it? And then the city as well. So if we want to take, $7,500 or whatever was put aside in the budget for 2022 from the city for arts project, would we be willing to tap into some of that money for this? Is that appropriate? So these are things for us to think about. So we got the artists, reviews and approvals, cost, and then we have execution. So this is something for us to figure out. How do we sort of project manage these things? And then under this, I just put maintenance and permanence as well, like the Mural Act, and how do we take care of it long term? And then lastly is timing. Like when would we hope to have this done? Or when would the person who's proposing it hope to have it done? What sort of timeline?
There's a lot of resources out there, like community outlets, other areas that have projects, maybe there is some language that says all this.
Yeah, could be.
To do some research in regards to it.
And I'm happy to reach back out to Greenbaum and maybe she would be willing to even come and talk to you all.
Yeah.
But it does sound like, at least in 2017, the last time I communicated with her on this, her group of students, part of their mission was to go and paint murals in the Seward neighborhood. So she, I think, would know all about it.
Yeah, I was reading that email you forwarded, and it looks like they did work with the Audubon Society and Made Here, Minnesota. So they were all over,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah. So she would definitely be a resource to at least know all the things that we don't know. I'll speak for myself. I don't know what I don't know. So there's just a lot, still a lot to discover. And there is that mural project that I can't remember the name of it, and I need to search through the archives of my millions of undeleted emails, but some muralist organization on University Avenue that I know exists. And I did have a lovely conversation, and I can't remember the name of the artist or her organization, but she's on Snelling and she does mosaics. All those, like the Turf Club mosaic on University, and then there was an Ethiopian restaurant on University too that they did. And oh my gosh, the most beautiful. I don't remember her name, but in any case, I know where she is. She's occupying the old WPA building on Snelling, like this historic building, and that's where she works out of. But I know there are lots of people out there that just need to.
I'm Googling it, like how to do a mural.
Oh.
Here's one, how to start a mural program in your own town.
Oh, well, there you go. Good old Google.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, there's millions of resources on it. I think some of it is just figuring it out for ourselves. But, there are sort of natural areas that we need to consider, like these things, cost, approvals, the art itself, the artist, those types of things. So, for us, we're trying to, build a process, build a plane while we're flying it, right? So figuring out how to do it while doing it at the same time. So that's the second time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hope for our second mural, this goes the left.
Do another mural on the other end.
Oh, for sure. I'd love to have them all over the place. And there are towns, we've talked about this, or they do have them all over.
always envisioned Gateway Trail, the burn wall building.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That'd be a huge, but. I mean, it could be-
yeah.
There was also someone who, for a huge project like that, or even as big as this one, I don't know. But literally, the whole mural is done like on a silk, some kind of weatherproof substrate, and they just drape the whole thing right down the side of the building, and it's weather resistant and wow, it's idea too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any, if we could sit here and go around and around.
Yeah.
There's not much we can do tonight, but any other questions for Susanna about this project? I know you've been, when do you want it done 7 years ago?
Yeah, but that's okay.
But, you've given us some ideas of what you're thinking is like the theme of the art itself, what you might like it to look like. You have no preferred artist or anything like that, right? And then like reviews and approvals, that would all be on our end, I think, to make sure that that's okay. And then execution, I think, all the other things I think we have to figure out.
Yeah. And just for action items for myself, I'm happy, I'm gonna contact Liz Greenbaum. Are
Okay.
you all interested in hearing from her? If I could get her
Sure.
to zoom in to you all, to hear her experience. I'm happy to do that. And then I'm gonna hunt through my archives and find this place on University Avenue, because he definitely was a very chatty and informed person, but when he found out I wasn't affiliated with the city officially, he just kind of
Well,
like, next, get out of my life.
We'll take over.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
no, thank
So I
you.
want to give you some credit for this.
Oh,
Yes.
Community,
Oh.
because Tom and I, were talking years ago,
I
we've
remember.
been talking and, how do we get it going? How do we
I'm so
make
appreciative.
it work, and this is what makes it work.
Yeah.
you know.
And all good things are worth waiting for, it's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I really appreciate that you actually put into action, and it's wonderful to have an idea. We all know how hard it is to implement anything, so.
Government's been slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay, I want to hear about this so much. Do you mind if I say?
Oh,
Tough seat.
So just before we go, I think there's a couple of action items just to take away from this. One is, and as I'm thinking about this one, and as we're talking about the snowman thing, I'll take an action item to create a draft for sort of an intake form, like what is the information we want to know from a person who's proposing something. And I'll put something together that we can review at our next meeting. And then Susanna has an action item to contact Liz Greenbaum to see if she would want to join a future meeting and kind of talk about her experience. But then I also think, I would like for us to think about between now and next month, we only meet once a month. What else can we do to try and help move this project forward? If we're going to even possibly try and get this thing done this year, what would we need to do next to figure this out? And I wonder if there's maybe, I think about some of the information that we heard when we met with, I can't recall her name now, Casey.
Oh, yeah, Casey at the Humanities Center. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that too. I would love to buddy up with somebody, and because I'll be back in town next week.
Yeah.
And start making some calls. There are resources out there that specifically can fund this sort of thing. And I had a little bit of an email conversation with one of my colleagues at the Humanities Center who used to run an organization that matches artists with funds. She's looking for projects. So, there are ways to do this, and I would love to buddy up with somebody and just start tracking these down and understanding what are the timelines and what are they looking for, and just start getting a list of funding opportunities.
And artists,
And artists, yeah.
is that what you're thinking? Yeah. Anybody want to buddy up with Trudy on that one? I'll buddy up with you on that, Trudy, if you want.
Yeah.
When you're back, because you know what's funny is I just Googled, how do I get a mural going in my town? And so many things came up about how to help artists find spaces and get funding for them to do art. So I think there are a lot of artists out there who are looking for opportunities.
Right.
So,
Right.
Didn't we create a flow sheet of a project in our past?
we
meeting?
started,
It's pretty, I think it's pretty good. I think we should maybe lean on that
Yeah.
for our table direction. But I think the proposal to build the project proposal to the public so that we can get answers is really smart.
I'm not following, I'm sorry.
So what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
creating that sheet, that proposal sheet,
Uh-huh.
of what
Yeah, yeah,
artists or what the community would need to fill out.
right.
We haven't done that yet, but I feel like we did do the process. Right?
Well, we haven't gotten very far. And I think we're trying to, that was the thing where it felt like we're trying to build a plane while we're flying it. I mean, there's like an academic exercise almost to say, well, what do you think we should do in all these different areas? We're considering idea intake, determining cost of funding, preparing the location, permissions and permits, publicity and marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So we have it, we were going to pick up on that today, actually, to kind of keep trying to flesh that out a little bit more.
And I can pull it up really quick if it's helpful. Trudy, do you remember, by any chance, what the
Yeah, it is.
number is?
It's
4.3?
ACC project process, it's 4.3.1.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder too, if it would make sense to have a RFA, like a request for application, just like draft out something that maybe artists could respond to or potential artists could respond to, just so we could get on the same page of what we're looking for.
You want to take that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I knew that was coming.
You bring up an idea, it's yours.
And
So-
while you're doing that, once you've got the list, we can create a portal online through spreadsheet that they can submit their responses in, and then we just have it all locked in place.
Perfect.
I can work with you on that.
Okay.
So I haven't pulled up, it's just.
Okay. Is that it? Any other action items for that one? I think that's good. I think it gives us something to keep doing in between our meetings. Okay. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this will be so much nicer for you to give this story. I've given some of this story
Yep.
before, but
So
and
I
I
think,
saw that, 500 emails that you sent me.
so I think this could be open part of the meeting, because it's not an agenda item. So I'll just kind of present it.
Okay.
Can't take any action items on it or anything.
Uh-huh.
It's an idea that is going to be thrown out there. So again, going back, an idea that was thought of is a snowman. Our icon is the snowman. People relate to St. Paul with the snowman. I reached out to Art Johnson, and I'd love to have him talk to your group. He and his sister started this little company many years ago, and they were connected to Charles Schultz. His sister knew Charles Schultz just from being from the Highland Park area. Charles Schultz kind of grew up there at some point in his life, and she reached out to him. He connected with her, and the two of them formed a good connection. She actually started with charm bracelets, a jewelry store, and she was able to contact like Monopoly, Parker Brothers or whatever, to be able to make the Monopoly pieces as part of a charm bracelet. And she wanted to reach out to Charles Schultz in regards to her jewelry. So from that, came the idea of the Snoopy's downtown St. Paul. And reached out to Charles Schultz again to get his permission to make these Snoopy characters for the downtown. And it was a huge success for the downtown. They placed them all over, and after they're done with them, they put them on auction, and they made a lot of money over all these Peanuts characters. And St. Paul made it a kind of a festival. You could go downtown and look at them. So this company now has expanded, and they've done other cities. Here's Roseville, where they do mold for roses.
Oh,
It's part of Roseville, and they put them all downtown. But they have artists that come in as part of the mold, have an artist come in and paint them, similar to what the Snoopy characters were. They would have local artists come in and paint, whatever. So from that, this company can make molds for anything. They've done certain molds for different cities all over the country. And that's part of ours was the snowman. And we were talking about the snowman. We look, you know what? We already have a snowman made. We have the mold, and that's where the expense is in that mold. So they have a snowman mold. This is what it looks like. So that's the mold. It's going to be a white mold, and then you would have artists come in, and they can make, a timber wolf. They can make, put a nose on it, and
Terry, did you get, so you mentioned a little bit like the artists come in, so is that part of the process? So like like those gray roses.
Yep.
So they give them to the artist like before they're finished, or like they like. I think it-
so he tells the story. He's just great. So, what we're thinking is that the artist usually will take it and bring it on spot to an area that they can work on it, because it takes a while to paint it.
Yeah.
A thought was we could do it in public works, where the artists would come here, and we, as residents, could go over there and take a look and see how it's progressing. Or Love Ice Cream buys the mold and has it outside her shop, and the artist comes and paints it outside her shop, whatever. There's just so many ways to do it. But the idea is each snowman would be different. And it could be a Newman's or Love Ice Cream or St. Peter's or school, or the city could have one. And then place them either downtown, around town. People put them in different locations, put them in parks, put them in parks, put them along the Gateway Trail. Welcome to North St. Paul. This is who we are. You can do something fun. The big snowman's pregnant, and all of a sudden all these snowmen start. You don't know. I mean, you can make something
I had
fun.
no idea. It was a
You can make something
snowball.
fun out of it, where all of a sudden all these snowmen start popping up. So once you have all these snowmen, and it could take a couple of years, you're not going to get 20 of them all at once, because there isn't an expense to them. But maybe you have, businesses sponsor them. You could sell them at the end, or they could be permanent fixtures. So
Yeah.
that's where he comes in.
Yeah.
Because other cities have done auctions on them, where they get their cost back on them.
So yeah, I guess, it would be great to hear from him and see like how the whole process has worked in other cities. Because I guess I have in my head, like what has happened with these things, like with the Peanuts things, was like, everybody got one of these things. They all had a certain amount of time to get it painted, and then they were all sort of like presented and judged at a certain time.
Right.
And then they went off and put their.
So the bank, Premier Bank has. two-
Yeah,
two of
yeah.
them, so people, they're auctioning them off, and people bought them,
Because
and now they're gone.
Yeah, is there some sort of like community involvement that way? Like people do do these things and then they all are, you have them all down at the car show, like for a month. I don't know.
I see nothing good coming out of that. I think if Love had one out front, maybe bring it in inside during the car show.
No, wait, why?
I would just worry that it would be ruined in some way.
So these-
But like, if they were all in one place for people to go around and say, like, if people go and say, like, what's your
Have to be
favorite one?
guarded.
Yeah.
How much are they? Any idea?
Yes, so there is, and one of those emails I sent you, we did get
Or
a
those types of
uh, a price for them. The mold is like $20,000.
But we already have that.
things. We already have.
So it's,
Is it concrete?
Let's just get the mold and pour love inside of it.
so here's,
How do you eat it?
Just an ice cream. An ice
Just
cream
a skinny
snowman.
snowman.
what's that?
Your snowman doesn't have an ice cream cone.
Candy snowman.
Yes,
So they were a tenant at a commercial real estate company that I worked for. And I actually got to tour their plant.
yep, so like Fort Parkway or
It's
something.
Enterprise Drive somewhere. I forget their address.
Interior, are they made out of concrete?
Is it not the same company?
They're not concrete,
They're not.
It's like a plaster.
It's like a resin, but it's heavy. It's a
Oh,
heavy,
yeah.
it's on a concrete slab.
Mendota.
They do make them so that you can put a forklift. The old ones, they did it, and they thought of that later, like making this concrete, how do you move them?
Yeah.
You know, so now they're made so you can put a pallet jack or a forklift or whatever, where you can actually move them. Kind of cool.
So they're really a good shop. I mean, very. Do you have a forklift?
I'm sure Public Works does.
Okay, I don't know. So like the Great Wolf Lodge hotels, Tivoli too did all of that work. All of the wolves and everything that you see that's molded. So they're very talented. So I trust. that they-
They have the mold, and we have to tie up that mold for us. It's been out there a long time. He says, you know, we still have it, and what happened was Scott did it, you know, I just lost contact. And so many things happened.
So what was the total cost then?
I don't even want to tell you, because I don't know. I don't know. It's in one of these emails, but I think, I want to say $5,000, $4,000
That's not bad.
Per statue.
per.
It's a lot, and then you have to hire the artist to paint it.
Oh,
But then he said that, you know, the artists, sometimes there's artists out there who, and he's got a list of artists, you know, will come in and do it. You know, it's part of their experience. to
Do
do
they
it.
work with any finishing at all, or is it all on the artist?
Uh,
That 4 or 5,000.
No, you're right. So we have to, once they get done, then we bring them somewhere and then
They would put like in the back.
yeah, or they do it on site. So again, it's been a while. I'd have to go through all this. If you go through it, it's going to tell you pretty much all that, what needs to be done.
Trudy has a resource that they won't fund our department, but they will give grants to artists.
Right.
So she's able to make that connection.
How big are they?
Yep, they do.
They did that 6 feet.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're big.
they're big.
Sidewalk.
So you do see one. I don't know if you've ever seen it on Highway 36,
Yeah, at that pumpkin farm or something, right?
just near the pumpkin farm.
Yeah.
That's the mold.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And
That's
they- They decorate them with different
The
stuff.
little
in the
snowman.
season. Yeah, we've
It's
got a
got
little,
the arm.
like a little teapot.
Uh,
For it's the weather.
So, yeah, you go right by it every day. So it's a guy that, he repairs, campers. And it's Randy used to own the dive shop. here.
Oh, I know him. Yeah. He taught me how to do it.
Yep, me too.
Exactly.
And I went to Cayman.
Did you?
I did. Did you go to Cayman?
I did.
You
had to take it from
Was that you?
Our next high school students, so.
It's a small world.
This is the beautiful thing about.
Isn't it like Randy?
I just call him Randy, the guy from the scuba shop.
Okay, okay, north side or north or south side of 36,
So it'd be the south side.
south side.
Often the snowman looks like it's got a guy playing on it.
I feel like I have seen that. I guess it's never registered with it.
Right, you just drive by it and you go, oh, there's a snowman.
For 30, over 30 years.
Okay, if you get, okay, here's where the cost, so total cost, if you buy 5 of them, is $6,000. Buy 10 of them, they're $5,000. Buy 15, they're $4,600. 20 of them, they're $44. And 5, $42.
So do we know if the company has any flexibility working with small cities or?
What kind of flexibility? Yeah, I think this is the flexibility.
It's the rate and stuff?
Yeah, he was giving us some pretty good rates. Number one is the mold. I think he's given us a really good deal on that mold.
Oh, so you lease the mold then? There's some cost incurred?
No, I think. You gotta talk to him.
So I think, like, my big initial question is the idea here that the city purchases them up front, has artists do whatever with these things, and then the city auctions them off so that they can go anywhere they want? Or
There's get a sponsor.
there's like sponsors,
Yeah.
right? So then the sponsor would keep it,
Or we pay, there's an incentive,
right?
you know, instead of 4,000, you pay 2,000 or 1,000, that's yours. Something to offset the cost
Right.
to the business owner. Because it's decorating our downtown.
Yeah.
And again, you have to work out some sort of agreement, you know.
Yeah, I think I even saw like some agreements in these documents that he had sent, so. And again, I forwarded those to everyone. There's a lot of documents and pictures in there, so. But I think this would be really helpful to have. Do you think he would be willing to come and talk to us?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, he likes to talk.
so because I think for me, just to wrap my head around, like, how does the process work? And what are the expectations? Like, how does it? Because that's what you're thinking, like the city buys these in effect. And then we try to.
I don't know.
Is there a way that we could do a collaboration with the business with the clause so we can use it to recoup our own costs? Like if they auction it off, we get 20% of the proceeds or.
So there is things in here that talks about, there's many things that we talked about, but there is, like Roseville, you know, they did the flowers, you know, they recouped their costs. We just got to figure that out, how to do that.
Is there like rules against us using it as a fundraiser as well, though? Like if we can recoup our costs and then help build money up to support other artists or art projects? Well, it might be worth asking.
Yeah, it's worth asking.
Sell them each for $1 million. Talk to the Arts Council.
But that's, you know, it's an idea that downtown, you know, walkability, or, you know, what are the things that people walking downtown, you know, they're looking at snowman. I mean, it's bring their kids down. Right?
How many parks?
Yep,
We're still figuring it
I don't know.
We're adding, subtracting.
approximately, is there more than a dozen?
I think it's around 15, I want to say.
They're much more Instagrammable too than big stuff. Because we have to
Yes.
stand so far away from This is what it's all about.
You could-
Instagram, Instagrammable space.
Yeah, that's right.
You
And
can make
you
them
can have some wonderful talented computer programmer do a little app too with, you know, like Pokemon Go.
Yeah, there you go.
Find the snowman. They have a whole treasure hunt. That's really cute. Yeah.
What do you think of the idea of snowman downtown?
I would take one, but not at 5,000 though. Because I have a mural fund.
Priorities.
But cost share I would.
You get the mural fund. Then how many snowmen?
I don't want to touch it until,
Like the same thing, that's very Instagrammable. That is the hottest spot in LA. It's a pink wall on the side of the
are you serious?
I am not kidding you. I'm very serious.
Where's
You
that?
know why?
California?
It's in California.
That's
It's just a
California.
really good lighting, the way that it reflects off the sun. I'm not kidding. It's
Oh, the
really
pink
weird.
kind of pink? Oh,
It's a, just like
Just a
everywhere
plain
that was white is just pink. And I know that sounds weird, but it could be an inch.
That's a very interesting idea. I'll consider it. We're right now, well, inside our cafe, we have an Instagrammable wall area, but we do definitely want something on the outside. But this would be cute. Snowman would be cute. Very cute.
that's the mold.
Oh, yeah, it's very cute.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it has the dimensions on it, right?
Yeah, so it's 72 inches.
It's cool. I
72
know.
inches.
I know. Oh, wow, look at that. That's my pink.
That's what I said. That's why I would ask if you. Because it's very.
It's like, that's what it is.
It does. There's
But it's
little
photographs.
The photographs, well, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. My husband would have loved that. But we could do a portion pink until we get the rest of it done.
Okay, so I have one action item here and that is for Terry to talk to Art Johnson about presenting to this commission.
Sure.
You want to do
I
that?
can
Well,
do that.
are we not allowed to do action items because? it's
Well,
open?
We can, and let's talk about that. And like I said, for me, it's like, in order to get my head wrapped around this, I feel like I gotta know more about how these things work. To know, like, what do we even want to do, or how would we do it? A mural is, even the complications involved in doing a mural seems much more straightforward to me.
Right.
We don't have to sell the mural after.
That's right.
Great. And we keep it where it is. Yeah.
So does that sound okay, or did we get, unless there's anything you can think of, you want to try and take some action before then? Maybe just review the documents. That's something that everyone on the team can do. Review the documents that I emailed you. Can someone make sure that you could open those?
I didn't get any
I
emails.
haven't
from
seen
you. I have
any
no
email.
idea what you're talking
What's
about.
a
I
massive?
think you're
I
just.
didn't know if you were kidding.
I sent them as
I
an
didn't-
attachment, so that might be a problem.
Oh,
So
okay. No, there were no attachments.
Is
Oh,
it-
there's a lot of attachments.
It's like a massive email.
Was it this right now?
It just came through, well, it came through 17 minutes ago on mine.
Oh,
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So March 24th, we have a council and commission chairs meeting with the city attorney,
March?
March 24th.
That's when it should be on.
Yes, we do not have a time yet. We're talking early afternoon, but I thought most commission chairs work and we can do it around 5.
Policy goes into this
Well, I think,
meeting.
I think those are some of the questions.
Okay.
What? How does it, how does it work? But having the city attorney there. would be very helpful.
I think, well, part of what all of this work is forcing the conversation out is city staff arts commission first.
And that's part of our conversation from our workshop is getting support for staff.
Maybe more Lisa.
No, it is a discussion that we're having, and I don't want to say any more because we're just
Yeah, I know.
discussing, but it's a priority for us to try to help.
Yeah,
Get
but
more
it's like,
help. Get more help.
you can only try and do more things with this. If you want to keep doing more and more as a city, you can't keep cutting staff.
Mhm.
Anyway, okay, so 2 action items then from this one. One is for Mr. Mayor to talk to Hart Johnson about coming and talking to us, and then review the documentation that I sent you. Now, Stacy, were you able to open that?
Yeah.
Able to see all that? Okay, good.
Yep.
Anyone has any trouble, let me know, but there were like, I don't know, at least 10 different emails. So I just started to bundle them.
I just started.
Okay. Craft Wagon. That was the big item from last time.
Mhm.
So it is at the Public Works facility, but we don't know what type of condition it is. And I talked to, or just gave Dan an FYI and let him know that this is what you guys are thinking, the direction you want to go. So he's aware of it. And what else can I tell you about it?
Condition, logistics, like how could we get it to locations either at the car show or at parks?
That's something that would need to be worked out. If we're using volunteers, we have to check with the city attorney to find out if they would be covered.
Okay.
They would have to tow it, I'm assuming with a public works truck from place to place. But I don't know.
They've used it in the past, like that. Some of the splash, the teams playground, we had it down there
It must
for,
be in reasonably good condition. If it's gonna-
and that was just a couple years ago that they were using it for Star Watch. Star Watch or so a couple of the events that were down there.
Ron did say that we could probably put it somewhere downtown, depending on where we want to leave it down there for the, we have the car show. And we were talking about using it on Friday nights and.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this would be a question for the public works director or the city manager. Is Ron the director now? Is that- Okay. So the public works director and or city manager is just moving it around to where it needs to be whenever it needs to be somewhere. Whether that's on a Friday for a partial or whether it's a weekday afternoon at Casey Park or one of the other parks.
So what I would do is have Lisa, since she's the liaison
Okay.
for this, that she would bring that up to the other.
So Lisa has an action item to bring that up to, would it be the city manager? or
I would start
I
there.
would start. Remind me, do we have to have the city council approve this final plan before we execute it?
the-
The plan.
the-
Process?
the art-
Using the craft sponsoring this somehow, like being involved in places.
So really high level, Terry, is that what we've been kicking around here is that we resurrect the craft wagon.
So I think it goes to Lisa,
Yeah.
which she would just bring it to John.
Yeah.
And John will determine whether or not it needs city council approval or if it's something that needs to be just approved from him and gets back and all that. So I know when the Parks and Rec did it, I don't think that city or council. Did it.
Yeah, I think their funding is a little different.
Oh, funding? For this what are we funding? Are we
We'd
funding
have to
something?
hire staff or volunteers, or
So,
there'd be supplies.
so there's kind of two parts of this thing. Like if we bring back the craft wagon kind of in its original purpose. Like when I was a kid, I went to Casey Park and the craft wagon was there and we made stuff.
Oh,
So I think we can get volunteers that could lead the activities and things like that. But we need materials, it's not probably a huge cost. This seems to me to be more like something that, especially since that would be coordinated with the parks, commission probably. That we could come from their budget or from the 7,500 or whatever we got for the arts commission, or some combination of the two.
Right.
That seems like an appropriate use of some of that
Yep.
annual funding because it's not such a big thing. So there's that, but we're also thinking about having this thing at the car show this year. Not at every car show, but as an effort to kind of build awareness that there is now an arts and culture commission. And to also create an opportunity for artistic expression in the community. So you got a lot of people from the community there and they can do something. Kids can do something. And then we're also creating the awareness of this thing. And, which gives us an opportunity to get feedback from people, talk about plans, get feedback on plans, get feedback from people who would like to see things. So that's kind of the high level, kind of serving these dual purposes, that car show and then parks like in its original form. So those are things where we think of, we have to make sure the thing is usable, but it sounds like it's probably in pretty shape. So Lisa's gonna check in on logistics, like how do we get it where it needs to be anytime. And then we need to talk, I don't know if I want to wait till March to talk to Soren about this, but if we get volunteers, are they covered under city insurance policy or something like that?
Just do less. It's already,
Yes, I know, yeah.
And if we're getting all of these collaborators involved, they need to
Exactly.
be asked now so they can discuss it if they're.
Yeah,
So I would say if you need any information, give it to Lisa,
okay.
and Lisa will be able to.
So another thing we should probably do is connect with the Parks and Rec, or at least that side of the use of the thing. And do we want to get on their agenda, or how do we go about
They
it?
want to be on their agenda and not go with the what.
So what?
Like Terry had mentioned that as part of meeting structure, we can't vote, we can't take action on the Stone Act proposal, we can just hear. And if he asks to be on our agenda later, then we can take action. That's what I was bringing up earlier. So with Parks and Recs, we want to ask to be on their agenda following Robert's rules.
Yeah.
So that they can vote to take action.
And what do you need from the Parks
Do
and
they
Rec?
vote? I mean, we don't vote.
Parks and Rec?
Do they vote?
Like how to spend money if they want to back a project. It's not
Okay.
just.
But doesn't any of their spending has to go?
Well, they approve it and then it goes to the
Yeah,
council, and
okay.
we gotta approve
Right, yeah, okay,
it. And it'd be the same here.
yeah,
It's not your money, it's the city's money. It
Right.
goes to the council. You guys approve it and then we would. approve it.
so we want to get on the agenda for the Parks Commission to see, how do they even want to collaborate, or do they want to collaborate? with
okay.
us on this stuff,
Yeah.
Right, because they don't even know about it.
Yeah, Jill took that commission over, so I'll let her know that you'd like to be on the next meeting agenda.
Who did?
Jill, officer, another staff.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm not on that.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So you'll take that to reach out.
And then from there, I don't think that takes council approval from you guys.
last name is office.
We can collaborate, that's fine. But
Right.
What happens is, if they choose to spend money and we're spending money, we both have, it's gonna be stronger if we're both going to say, this is how we.
Location, commission, traffic, check on accepting donations. Can we accept donations? That's another thing.
I did, yes, and I was gonna do that in my staff report, so I did get information from Dan.
Okay,
Um, Oh, actually, that's the one that he. Please provide more information on how the Parks and Recs Commission process works before I comment. So he said we can also discuss this in person to make it easier. So I don't have an answer on that. I know that he did give me the financials, or excuse me, the purchasing policy, so we'll be able to address some of the other questions that we had as far as that goes. But, oh, raising funds. You can certainly seek sponsors and or grants for projects. This is if the direction, and it will be clear. Sorry, I don't have the right glasses on. I've got two gray glasses. Okay, you can certainly seek sponsors and or grants for projects. If this is the direction and it will be similar to the park fund, we would need to get authorization and set up a separate fund for this. But that's already been done. We have a link on the website now, so we can accept any donations, and I believe Carrie set up that fund already with Dan.
For the arts.
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
And then any donations that come in, they get put on the list of. We have to.
yes.
okay.
And
You're out of order. Sometimes I feel like we're getting too Robert's rules of order.
Yeah.
It is.
When donations come in, can they be earmarked?
Earmark is like. this
Arts
is only for-
also, Parks and Rec.
Yep.
We
Oh,
even
yeah.
had it.
I
to
think, no, but I think she wants to earmark it for a mural.
Yeah,
Oh,
Like
I see.
mural. or craft wagon, or
I think so.
snowman.
I mean, it's just harder to keep track of, but I think if somebody can make a donation, wanted it specified.
actually, Dan didn't have a problem with that. We had someone inquire about the ball field. They wanted to donate specifically for a particular item, and Dan said that wouldn't be a problem.
Oh, cool.
No.
They do
And
all
that
the
is
time.
how the park and rec is set up as well. You want to donate for them, so if you want to do certain things.
Because if you're gonna ask for donations or even put it out there, people like to know what they're donating to.
Mhm.
Yes, and I believe that's how it is. You can have like a general fund, or you can pick one of the items that are listed there that you want to go with.
Okay, so next steps with craft wagon. So we've got talking to Soren about liability with volunteers. Can I just email him directly and ask him, or do we bill for that?
Or you could.
And you see what happens.
You can, okay.
So I think all volunteers are covered under the city policy. It's no different than the Parks and Rec. That anytime we do certain things in the city. Yeah,
I wonder if there's.
we just started using chainsaw.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it would be, well, especially if the craft wagon is delivered to a site by Public Works.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about a volunteer hooking the wagon up to their car.
No, there's a liability.
Then, yeah, but if we can deliver the craft wagon where it needs to be by Public Works, and then all the volunteers do are whatever inside the building. So let me ask this, is it crazy to start thinking about putting a notice like in the email that we got today, the North St. Paul News and Events, to call for volunteers for the craft wagon? Or, you know,
We could certainly do that.
how often does she put those out?
Is it weekly?
Oh, weekly.
At least.
Oh, okay.
Would it be better for him to do that before we have full council?
Well, I was gonna say,
approval To do
it's-
that?
Well, get approval from the city manager.
Mhm.
See where that goes with the discussion.
Okay.
You may not need city council approval for that.
Okay.
It just might be, he needs to know what's going on.
Mhm.
So I think we should maybe then think about, so,
And then get a newsletter, you know, soon after that.
yeah, and I know, I mean, it's really cold out and we just started February, but our next meeting will be in March. And then our next meeting after that will be in April. And, you know, so in March, then it's like 2 months away, we kind of need to be ready to go.
That's why I think a lot of these action items are really pressed for now,
Yeah,
so that the other people can make their decisions.
right, so we have all these things, so Lisa Wong is gonna check about volunteers and liability, logistics with John, the city manager, about moving the wagon. Council approval, if that's required, Lisa Wong is gonna check on that. And then Lisa Ritchie is gonna contact Jill Officer regarding the Parks and Rec agenda. And see if we can talk to them about that.
And their next meeting. February 23rd? Yes. Yep, it's third.
It'd be nice to go to that one if we could, because then it'd be before our next meeting.
I had a couple questions related to this. So assuming we've got a way, you know, that we're going to start asking people if they want to volunteer, would it make sense that once we sort of understand what questions would be on our form, that we would have like a web address to a form in Smartsheet, but then we can start collecting these names?
Oh, that would all go through our
Or where does that go? Yeah,
Open Gov. So that would be an online thing through the city website.
okay. Okay,
And Carrie can set that up
okay,
specifically for the Arts Council.
okay,
And it goes to the city address for
got it, okay.
And
then I
it
have-
would be an electronic form that they fill out.
Mhm.
And then I can bring that information to the meetings and keep you updated.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And then another question, we had talked a little bit at the last meeting about potentially decorating the wagon itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it something we would need permission for?
Mhm. We'd have to check it down on that.
Okay. And by the way, I went a little wild on the Pinterest related to that. I've always wanted a Volkswagen,
Yeah,
like the full paint job. So there are many examples.
Mobile, are you?
yeah.
of the one.
Let's call it hippie wagon.
The Scooby or the, what was it,
Mystery
the
mobile.
The mystery mobile. Yeah.
the mystery bus.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love it.
Okay.
So something to think about, and I think then we can maybe, so once we get some of these other questions answered, then I think in our March meeting, here's what I have written down regarding the craft wagon. We can start talking about a call for volunteers, a
Mhm.
web form on OpenGov, materials that would be needed to do stuff, and what that stuff would be. So it's like programming,
Mhm.
like, you know, what would the activities be?
And I'm thinking that also might be something that some volunteers may have
Yeah, that's
ideas that
good.
we hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, because I got nothing on that. I have
Oh,
no
I've
idea.
got.
Well, here we go. Lisa
I could
Ritchie,
bring it to our next meeting. if
there you
you'd
go.
like.
Okay, yeah, I have, that's not my, I'm not
Oh,
a creative person.
if I could be the full-time volunteer, I would do that.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Anything artistic,
Great.
creative.
Anything else regarding the craft wagon?
The schedule.
the schedule, yes, that's another thing we'll have to think about.
Right.
I think that would be more appropriate for next meeting as well, once we've had some of these other conversations. So it would be great if we could get into that Parks and Rec meeting at the end of this month. And do you wanna let me know, and then, we could just open that up to the ACC, anyone from this group that wants to join can join.
Sure.
If not,
I will send you an email. I'm sure it'll
but
be
I'll try and
fine.
make sure I'm available.
Okay.
At least. Judy will be back.
Mhm.
Whew. Felt like a lot.
Mhm. That's good.
Anything else craft wagon related? I think this is good. I think we have some action items for this.
I'll check the page.
Oh,
Check the time's good.
what about we do need staff to manage the volunteers or oversee them or something like that.
Need staff to manage them.
Well, to make sure they show up or, just
Mm.
be,
Reminders.
yeah. Someone that if the volunteers have questions, that they can,
Volunteer wrangler.
yeah.
Or maybe there's records that come back.
Well, I was on the commission, the arts commission 20 years ago. But I didn't think that I think if it's teenagers, they might, well, no, I was thinking if it was a part-time employee.
Oh, for the craft wagon?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, they always had, a paid person in there
yeah,
running that.
yeah.
Oh, they did.
Mhm. It'd be like the hockey, the skating.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had someone
Oh.
supervised,
Warming house attendant.
so they were a paid person.
Ah.
Mhm.
So do you think we have to have a paid person in the craft wagon every time it starts?
This was part of the Park and Rec, back in the day when they.
I do think being that we're working with children now, we might need to,
Well, for like
It's
craft.
some- well, I don't know about that. I don't know. We'd have to talk to maybe Jenny about that.
Just for the safety of minors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But, so back in the day, we used to drop our kid off,
yeah,
Yeah.
And walk away.
yeah.
where now, you might have to have a thing there.
I know for the high school, you can't ride on the bus to go to the show choir thing without a background check. And then scouts.
That's any volunteer.
Started.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Right.
with the Scouts.
Yeah, I don't know if you want kids to just drop off and.
Right.
But it's something that it's only going to be that you guys probably do face painting and look at, don't know.
What would we
Yeah,
do?
face
What would you
painting, I can bring a number of projects. Are we thinking once a week?
I don't know.
At a
Lisa's
different-
there, Lisa's ready.
At a
Yeah.
different park?
I don't know.
Oh, we're gonna
I don't
start
know if it
shooting
would be
something.
like every week in the summer, but
That's what it
like,
used
I
to
think
be.
if it was like 6 times in the summer, that would be a fantastic start.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking every week and it went to a different park. So every Wednesdays, because that's what it was when I took my daughter up there. It was once a week and every week was at a different park.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen.
That'd be fabulous, but I think if we could even get it done a half a dozen times, it would be a success.
Okay.
In my opinion, but
What about, is Parks and Recs, doing music in the park?
Mhm.
Yes.
Because lining it up with music in the park could be a double thing.
You-
is that connected, the adults can sit there, have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Listen
If
to the
we
music
did
while
that,
they're-
I would be happy to be there.
You got a
I mean, like,
volunteer.
as
Yay!
the-
Being staff person.
Or is the volunteer?
Let me think about that. No, I mean, I couldn't volunteer well, there's only a few a week and a few in the summer, right? Yeah,
They
that's
always
feasible.
do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, those aren't, don't they ever do the housing?
No.
They did one.
Oh, they did a couple years ago, yes.
Okay,
Did I hear that there might be music?
Music in the parks.
yeah,
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Because then you get more people, you get this synergy. You've got people that go because of the kids, but then other people will go because of the music. Yeah.
I attended one last summer. I felt like I was. It was a lot of fun. I did not realize at the time that alcohol was allowed to be consumed, so I was like, look at all these rebels around me. Like, I love this town. But I mean, they weren't breaking any rules, so. But there was a lot, it was a big family event, like there was a lot of younger people with kids. And they were all like screaming at me. Sandbox, like, right.
still mostly horseshoe kids. Okay,
We're at a brewery in Austin, Texas. And in the back of the brewery, was just a wide open space with tables, and in the middle was a playground. So all the parents were having a beer and sitting down, and the music over on one side,
Yeah.
the kids are playing, and dogs, you know, pet friendly, and
I vision for that building in front of Target.
Uh,
That empty garage.
yeah,
turn it into a
Oh, oil can
microbrewery,
Henry's.
those
make it
oil can here.
make it into a community gathering spot. Yeah. On it.
Okay. Anything else on Craft Wagon?
Actually, I will check the music in the park schedule. And yes, I could volunteer. I was thinking originally that it was every week. But as long as it doesn't conflict with the commission meeting, then I'd be happy to do that. And would we also have it during the day like it used to be? Or is it just?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think I like the idea of doing it at the same time as the music in the parks, but I also think having it during the day for kids is.
Well, we could do both.
Yeah, we could. I mean, things have changed. I mean, I don't know if it's in the summer, if little kids are even home anyway, or if they're in daycare, you know, or some other kind of camp or something.
Right, right.
Maybe we could connect with community ed. They had that, did they have that like search around North St. Paul for all the different things? And then
Oh,
you get
yeah,
a
yeah.
hat or
Right, right.
something. Maybe we could do something with them and they do the programming during the day.
you know, big connection is with Lori.
Yeah.
Really,
Park.
So we
Yep, and
go
she's
to
on
park.
the Park and Rec Commission, so we can talk to her. at that meeting.
So I had that time.
And then I'm thinking every time we have it out, that we also have a way to engage people related to arts and culture in general, and what do they want to see, and
Oh,
where do they want to see it. So we just have the big poster board or the whatever it is that we can start, you know, gathering feedback.
I can work on that too.
Okay. So I'm gonna propose that we table continued process mapping
Mhm.
till the next time. Y'all
Yeah.
okay with that? I think we just kind of covered a lot of stuff, but I don't know if in 15 minutes if we kind of nice to just get some of these things rolling and then, you know, document what is actually happening rather than have to, create it from scratch. So,
Maybe what we're gonna do.
yeah, right. So if that's the case, then that would finish off our, so, anyway, all those in favor to table continued process mapping to our next meeting? A motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Judy? Said
Oh,
aye.
yeah.
Okay, so old business, we don't have anything under there. Reports from staff, so let me start with you, Lisa, Richie.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I did talk to Dan and I got information. I will forward to you the purchasing policy and that will answer the first two questions. How the finances will work for the commission. Will you please advise on spending policies? So we'll look for that in the purchasing policy when I forward it. And then I know the amount allocated for the year is far less than what the city's limit is without approval from the council, but are there any parameters about what we can purchase? And he said that's included in the policy as well. And then as I mentioned, Carrie did set up the link on the website. So we are open to take donations. As of a couple days ago, I think it was. So yeah, and I will also, if there are specific things that we could add for earmarks, I can have Carrie add those. Murals is one, craft wagon is one. Anything else?
Snowman.
Snowman. Let's see.
We had also discussed at the retreat, potentially downtown banners.
Yes, that was the next thing on my staff. So John did ask me to bring that up, but you can go ahead and present that.
Oh my God, I can't get it to stop. Okay, sorry. That's my bedtime. It's done.
So yeah, he's open. He thought we could have fun with it. It's our 125th year celebration, so he would like to have banners downtown. He said because it's a one-time event, he doesn't think we need a lot of them. He said, but you know, half a dozen or something. So I made a suggestion of maybe having a design contest for the banners, and then you know it could be decided on what design we're going to use, and then that as far as the funding goes, that was the one thing that I did caution him about because our budget is very limited. But I can get pricing on that, and then we can work out the details on how much that is.
Are we talking banners? So we have the banners on the street posts.
Yep, and that's what he's talking about.
So those, yep, so those
Yeah, that's
should
what
be
we're doing.
replaced.
Well, this was just for temporary, the 125-year celebration.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna replace them, that would be something.
No, this, and I don't know if they would be, I guess, I don't know if this would be a replacement because it's just a temporary ban. I think we look at something else.
We discussed more long-term because we didn't notice there, but I can see
Getting
us
older.
going slow,
Okay,
or
well, we
maybe
can
it's
actually
every
get-
other one, the permanent one, and then we have the 125. year
Oh, that's a
anniversary,
good
and then we
idea. And
just
it could
swap
be
them
maybe
out
a
when we're
revolving.
done.
I'm wondering if we could just put the year on. So, you know, since whatever 125 years ago comes out to be, and then it's always good. You know what I mean? You know,
Evergreen.
I just think we have to have the name Quasqua Centennial. How fun is that?
And the spelling bee.
I think everyone said somebody is hard. That's a centennial or whatever. Like, oh, that's a new word.
So
Quasqua
that's,
Centennial.
that can be another project for us.
Happy Quasqua Centennial.
I can't even repeat that. Actually, I have to admit, I don't know what cost, is it 25 years?
Quas is like quarter, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I would love to
That's
have,
why.
if we were able to put a banner across the street somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, we could look at that.
Oh,
Yeah, just
I don't
one
know.
big banner.
You know, I don't know where you put it, you know, it's other towns, you see it, you know, coming down the.
Well, we used
There
to
you
have
have some that
something.
string pretty white lights up all the way. I mean, how pretty would all that be with the big banner?
Welcome to Bedford Falls.
Yeah, we have something, out on
Waterfall.
Margaret.
Potterville.
Terry, didn't we have a banner on Margaret at one point?
I think years ago, we used to string a banner,
hmm.
long time ago, it's been before my
Okay, well, maybe that could be our celebration banner.
So downtown banners, so he wants us to look into that.
Just make a plan for it, yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll
Terry
talk
has
about that.
contacts for the banner, so I can actually get pricing on it. I think he was just asking for ideas of what we should do. Like, should we just have a design, or do you want to get the public involved, or whatever your thoughts are on that? Unless Lisa, did you have more to add to that?
Not that particular piece, but we also talked about the backdrop to the council chambers, having some sort of something.
Talk about that.
We need something.
I can show you an example that I've seen prior, but it doesn't.
I think Scott was working. on it.
Yeah.
Anything else, Lisa?
No, that's what is on my list.
Okay, reports from commissioners. Let's start with you, Trudy. Any updates?
Oh, nothing new that I haven't said already. I'll be back in town late Monday, so.
I'll be over. You got beer in the fridge. Okay, Carrie, anything?
I am reading the best book right now. Joyful by an artist in Rexella. If you haven't read, this is your book, Lisa Ritchie, right here. You're gonna love
I
this
am
book.
going
It's
to order
amazing.
that when I get
Um,
home.
But I was reading it for work because we're doing some rearranging in our spaces at work, but it's all about how you can use art to improve the spaces around you.
Huh.
So Albania, I think was the country. The mayor of Albania got so tired of just seeing brown everywhere that he got the most off the wall orange paint he could and just started painting buildings these bright colors. And it improved everyone's mood. It's just how art can really just change your life. So.
Just
highly recommend.
orange?
Well, no, he did other. Just an example,
Okay.
just to illustrate. how
Don't give me
wonderful-
ideas.
I
All of a
was-
sudden, I'll just start thinking.
Paint walls, I see.
If the big, well, if the mural falls through, I'm all in on the big wall.
That's it for me.
That's it. Stacy. anything?
Nothing to report. I'm still here. Trudy. I never. Please bring back some warm weather. Yes.
And I don't have anything that we haven't already discussed. So reports from council liaison, Lisa.
Other than those two projects, I don't think I have anything relevant to this group.
So I will just say then, before we take a motion to adjourn, we have a lot of action items spread out across everybody. If you missed anything, let me know, and we're written down. But something to think about for our March meeting then, there are a few things that we'll be discussing. One is the craft wagon and those details to help us move forward then. The downtown banner, I think we should maybe come with ideas that we can have a more robust discussion about that in March. And then the council chambers background, so we'll take that as a thing for us to discuss as well, so if people have thoughts or ideas. And then anything else, if you have something to add to the agenda, let us know. And, you know, maybe we'll have updates, I'm sure, on what we learned about Mural. We'll have updates on Snowman. We'll have updates on. And in the meantime, Lisa Ritchie, you will let me know about the Parks and Rec, if we can get
Yes.
in on that one.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could put out an email to the team here to just say, if we're on the agenda,
Oh, of course.
so that everyone knows, and then if anyone can show up, but I'll plan to be there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Excellent. So,
And
anyone
then
want to make a motion to adjourn?
I just want to confirm, Terry will follow up with Mr. Johnson. Did you say Art?
Art.
Hart. Art
H-A-R-T.
Johnson.
Art.
Yeah,
Art.
okay.
Art Johnson.
And Tom, you'll create the intake draft form?
Yep.
And Suzanne's going to contact Liz. And everyone is going to think about what we can do to move forward and move the mural forward.
So, well, Trudy and I are gonna connect to make calls on artists and funding for the mural.
Yep.
Carrie is gonna draft an RFA for artists. So Terry.
And there's actually a RFP,
Yeah, I
think,
know.
in-
I saw that, yeah. There's something,
Oh,
one thing on there.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna review the documentation that was emailed. Lisa Wong is gonna check with Soren and the city manager on volunteers, logistics with the craft wagon, and council approval. Lisa Ritchie is gonna contact Joe Officer, we're gonna report to Rec. And that was it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Third.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Bye.
Trudy?
Aye.
Good to see you, Trudy.
8:25.
Thank you, everybody. I'm
Thanks for coming.
just gonna give you, I don't have my business card, but I'm gonna give you the card.
Oh,
I
thanks.
don't see how my card.
I don't think so.
Please do. I'm gonna give you my card too. And Carrie, you have my info.
Yeah, I can get in touch with
Yes,
you.
you know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I can stalk you on Facebook.
Thank you, yeah.
All good.
Very
Thanks so much for coming, Suzanne.
Oh, my
Nice.
absolute pleasure. I think your ideas are so much fun. It's wonderful that you're doing this.